Idly ho, Drinkerinos. It's another episode of the Idaho Booze Podcast with me, Steve Kuntz, and I am happy to tell you it's another re-release. That's right. We're going back to the well, bringing Joe Schner from Cinder Winery back. He was a great guest, the official poet laureate of the show, and just an amazing dude. And his new Laissez Faire wine bar is now open in Garden City, so we talk all about that. We talk all about what's going on with Cinder, the past, the present, the future. It's all coming up. That, plus we're going to do a Boise Beer Buddies community calendar right after this. It's time for the Warren Reserve cocktail of the week, and this week's cocktail is one of my favorites. It's the Old Fashioned, and not just any Old Fashioned. This is my Old Fashioned. This is the one I came up with. I love this Old Fashioned. This is going to be, here's what you need. You ready? You need bourbon. And then you need to go to WarrenReserve.com and buy my Old Fashioned kit. The Old Fashioned bundle, it's on there. It is the Warren Reserve Burnt Sugar Syrup, Warren Reserve Aromatic Bitters, Warren Reserve West 509 Almond Bitters. And then all you need is a giant hunk of ice. So take your glass, put your giant hunk of ice in there, measure two-ish ounces of bourbon, Caldwell Nights Rodeo, great bourbon for this, 100 proof. Or Buffalo Trace, any bourbon that you have, go ahead and throw it in there. Then I do about 3/4 of an ounce of the syrup, of the burnt sugar syrup. And then I do 2 or 3 healthy dashes of West 509 almond bitters. I love that stuff. It makes it so good. It just adds so much flavor and so great. And then maybe a dash or 2 of the aromatic bitters just to kind of give you that familiar kind of bitter flavor. Oh, you are just going to stir that thing up until it is ice cold and then enjoy. Just enjoy. It is an awesome drink. It's my Old Fashioned. Go to WarrenReserve.com. Get my Old Fashioned bundle right now. It's $34.99. But guess what? We have a promo code. Support the show. Support Warren Reserve and get that bundle. Use the promo code IdahoBooze25 at checkout. You're going to get 15% off my Old Fashioned bundle at WarrenReserve.com. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company and WarrenReserve.com. It's still kind of hot. It's August. It's still a little warm out there, but the nights are getting cooler, right? As we move towards fall, Old Fashioned season is coming back. Oh, and you need to be ready. And have I got the product for you? They finally did it. Adrian and Danny at Warren Reserve finally put my Old Fashioned kit up on the website. It is there. You can go and buy my Old Fashioned bundle. This is going to be the burnt sugar syrup. Amazing. So good. So much better than regular simple syrup. Just an amazing flavor, complex flavors, amazing with that Old Fashioned, with any whiskey really, but really paired nicely with a nice 100 proof whiskey. Really, really good. Aromatic bitters are on there. The Warren Reserve aromatic bitters, different than the ones you're used to, a little bit more flavor, a little bit more sort of oomph in these bitters. And then my favorite, my absolute favorite bitter, the West 509 almond bitter. When I tell you that I love this bitter, I am not joking around here. I'm not essing around. These are the best. This is the best combination for an Old Fashioned. This is the kit that you want. WarrenReserve.com. Pick up my Old Fashioned kit. And I tell you what, I'm going to throw in a little deal here for you. Use promo code IdahoBooze25, support the show, and get 15% off my Old Fashioned bundle. It's right there, right under my big fake picture. The Old Fashioned bundle, burnt sugar syrup, aromatic bitters, West 509 almond bitters, all at WarrenReserve.com. Go and get it today. Get ready for Old Fashioned season with me and my Old Fashioned bundle and promo code IdahoBooze25. Get 15% off at WarrenReserve.com. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm Steve Kuntz here with Joe Schner from Cinder Wines. Joe, how are we doing today?
Great, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks a lot for coming out. Really happy to have you here today to talk about Cinder. And go ahead and just, if you could, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, where you come from, and how you happen to be right where you are today.
Oh, all right, Steve. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Let's see. Well, if you go back to our, our first harvest, that's 2006. So you got to wind the tape back then. That Cinder was started by my wife and I. My wife Melanie Krause. She's our head winemaker, our CFO now. She's really the visionary and the artist behind all these beautiful wines that we make, and she's assembled a great team now. Prior to that, Melanie and I were dating, and we were in Washington State, and that's where she started in the wine industry. I think that was around 2000. She started first in the vineyards with Chateau Saint Michel, their parent company, and after a couple seasons moved over into winemaking. So she was up in that industry in Washington for roughly about 6 years before we decided to start Cinder and make Boise, Idaho our home. And it's been a great ride. We're just, kind of at this point, roughly almost 20 years into this ride. We've got new adventures on the horizon and such, but it's also a really wonderful moment to, have somebody like yourself asking us about our story, because it is kind of fun to reflect back on just the journey and the growth and all the friends we've made along the way.
Okay, that's a very, very sweet story. I love to hear that. And I love to hear that Washington State is involved, because as listeners know, I am from Washington State. So anytime you can fold Washington into it, you got me. I'm right back in.
Go Cougs.
Oh, my God.
I gotta plug that.
It's been nice having you, Joe.
Oh, no. We have a husky here.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Red alert.
We have a husky who owns retrievers is what the situation here is. So, yeah, we red alert. Yeah. Go Cougs. Good God.
Well, we
on my own show.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
No, you made a mistake. I'm in now, and I'm at your bar, so us Cougs, we're not leaving.
You're not leaving.
Nope.
Oh God, I gotta hide the liquor.
I graduated in '99 with a chemistry degree. I like to say a major in rugby and a minor in chemistry. And my wife and Melanie, she graduated the following year with a degree in biology and Spanish. And so it was shortly after that she had the opportunity. I was working in a soil analysis laboratory in Oregon, just over the border, just across the river there near the McNary Dam, really in the heart of wine country. The Washington wine industry, the heart of it is definitely in eastern Washington and around the Tri-Cities in Kennewick. So she saw a perfect opportunity to apply her biology, her Spanish degree, also her background in ag. It all kind of clicked for her, and really there's just a giant debt of gratitude that both Melanie and I have for the many mentors and opportunities that the Washington wine industry provided her.
I didn't know that you could study the biology and chemistry of Jack Daniels. I didn't know that was a thing.
No.
Good to hear that they have expanded their syllabus out there.
Yeah, it is interesting because a lot of people will ask, did you ask Melanie if she got an enology degree or a viticultural degree? Now Washington State University has a real, full-blown program, but I think they started a small pilot program maybe the year or 2 years after she graduated, maybe somewhere around 2001, 2002. But she's got, if you have a solid biology or chemistry background, that's a really good step into the wine industry. I will say that if we want to break it down into, the most important thing that Melanie brought to the table, I think it was in the very beginning was her palate. She grew up here in Boise, in South Boise, with two great older brothers and just a fantastic mom and dad. Gary and Liddy Krause, their kitchen is where Melanie grew up, and besides her mom in that kitchen, paying attention to flavors. And I think not everybody has that opportunity. I know that when I grew up, it was 5 kids and you ate as fast as you could because you wanted seconds, and there wasn't too much, at least for me, paying attention to flavors. It was eat fast. But Melanie's childhood, there was canning vegetables. There was really paying attention to the harvest. They grew up on a big acreage out there in South Boise. So by the time I met her in college, she already had a palate and was already a pretty good cook. So I think that's a common theme with a lot of winemakers, certainly that I where I find myself enjoying their winemaking, they also it's a good thing to visit their kitchen.
Yeah, pretty much every winemaker I've ever met could be a chef, and pretty much every chef I've met could probably be a winemaker for sure. So you guys happen to be at Wazoo in Pullman right around 1998, 99, 2000. So just for everyone that doesn't know and has maybe been to Walla Walla, I've been to Walla Walla several times. My parents live out by there, so I go all the time. When I was a kid and I lived out there, when I lived in Washington State, growing up there, pretty much the Tri-Cities and Walla Walla was just, it was like, you didn't really go there. There wasn't really anything there. So you guys happened to be there right when that scene was kind of starting. What was that like as things were kind of kicking up there? Which wineries were there then that are still here now? What were you guys seeing while you guys were out there?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, now of course when you go back to Walla Walla, it's undergone a tremendous transformation. And
what is it, like 144 wineries or something like that?
I wouldn't doubt it. And I want to say maybe in 2000, I'll be corrected by my buddies in Washington, and that's okay. But maybe there was a dozen, maybe 20, and there was your classic labels were up there. But I remember I really fell in love with a tiny label called Tamarack Cellars. They were out at the airport at the time.
Yeah.
And you know how it is when it taught me a lesson right away. There's nothing cooler than walking in and accidentally bumping into the actual winemaker in a winery. That just is a special connection.
Sure. And
at the time, we were my girlfriend at the time was in the wine industry. So boom, automatically, hey, let's come behind the curtain. Let's look around. And that was really wonderful, a wonderful experience to go through. And as we went further and further in our careers, we knew we got hitched. It was 2005. And we knew we wanted to both kind of someday be our own bosses. We both have a sort of special stubborn personalities. And we looked at Melanie's skill set and we thought, well, maybe we could build a wine label around this. So we had it narrowed down to 3 towns. It was either Walla Walla, Washington, Hood River, Oregon, or Boise, Idaho. I, at the time, had just landed a job in Boise at Micron as a chemist there. So we had a good paycheck coming in Boise, and we also had potential grandparents if we were also going to start a family, which was on our list of many things we wanted to do.
First thing on the list, pick 3 of the most beautiful places on earth that you could live. Second, go ahead and see if you can make any of those work. And third, maybe have kids someday.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, it's a lot. It's kind of overwhelming to think that we were cocky enough to imagine we could do any of those successfully. But we're really happy with our choice. I think that one thing that I always like to tell people about our story and about why the Snake River Valley is where we settled to make wine is it's that bottle there, that white wine that we have open. I promise we haven't been drinking yet, folks, just coffee. But
I'm not making that promise.
Yeah, in the early days of Melanie's career in Washington, she would obviously, when she had the opportunity, she would go visit her parents in Boise. And she got to know the players, the growers, the winemakers, winery owners here in the Snake River Valley, and eventually they asked her to be a judge in this, little Idaho wine competition they had going. So she had a great opportunity. She likes to say, "Oh, I got to spy on this industry." And each time she came back, she said, "Joe, the Viognier down there, man, it's good, and man, it has potential, and we can't really get the Viognier in Washington to sort of sing the way they can in the Snake River Valley."
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I think where Melanie was certainly, I'd have to point out that Melanie primarily worked with just red wines at Washington. In Washington, she was with the red wine making facility for Chateau Ste. Michelle, which is in eastern Washington, kind of near the Tri-Cities, between Tri-Cities and Prosser. Yeah, and the white wine is all made over in the beautiful chateau in Woodinville. So, but she knew that she wasn't going to be a total rookie dealing with white wines. when she launched her own label. But it was funny to just hear her start to talk about this white wine in Viognier and how impressed she was by it. And I will say that it's the grape that kind of brought her back home. And it's certainly our flagship white wine. It's probably our flagship wine, period. We certainly, I think we make the most of it, of all of our portfolio. We make about 1,000 cases. So those early years were kind of fun, and there was a lot of unanswered questions when we decided to start the label, but Viognier was not one of them.
So that's interesting. So did she actually just taste the grape? She just tasted it off the vine and was like, this is going to be an awesome wine? Or had she actually done had she made some wine with it? Had she seen another winery make wine with it? How did that come to be?
Well, I think what she did was when she was invited to be the judge in those competitions, she would come down and taste people's finished products. So she was tasting, let's say, a Williamson Viognier, a Syrah from Sawtooth, and she was kind of feeling out the territory. And then she would come back, and of course, winemakers are always exploring other regions, and she was talking to other winemakers in Washington about Viognier, and making the assessment. I'm impressed of all the wines, I'm impressed most by Viognier down in the Snake River Valley.
Was it a conscious decision for that to be sort of the flagship, or is that just the way the market kind of willed out?
I think it was. I think it was more of a conscious decision. I know that when you're starting a wine label, and we have never owned vineyards, and that's primarily how a lot of winemakers start off. You can only buy what grapes are out there, mm-hmm. And the Snake River Valley, there are like the pioneers of the valley that might correct me a little bit, but I think I'm somewhat correct in saying that the primary grapes that were planted here, it's not unfamiliar with a lot of other regions. You plant what is sold, right? So, yeah, and also like Chardonnay and Riesling can grow in a lot of different regions, and they're also super popular. So there's a lot of Chardonnay and Riesling here, and I'd have to give the tip of the hat to some other pioneers in the region that planted the first Viognier. But I know if we were to have the Williamson family here, they're certainly one of the first, and I believe Brad Pintler, who was the founder of the Sawtooth Winery, also was one of those pioneers, and we should get him on the podcast someday.
Let's get him on.
Yeah, but the first people that planted Viognier here, we owe them a great debt of gratitude because they were dead on. There's something about I believe it's probably got something to do with the elevation here, but it's absolutely gorgeous. It produces really what I consider like the queen of white wines of the Snake River Valley. And though people do interesting things with Riesling and Chardonnay and some other white varieties here in the Snake River Valley, I would say that if I could only pour one wine for you, it would be our Viognier, hands down.
Wow.
So I think it was more of a conscious decision there. And then Melanie started to branch out. She was also very interested in other Rhone varieties. Viognier is considered a Rhone variety. That's sort of the region in France that is the ancestral home, you could say, of Viognier. And so another Rhone variety is Syrah. And so she's done a red Syrah and a rosé of Syrah, especially in those early years. And then, we were on our way. We have a bigger portfolio now, but she didn't get too big for her britches right away. Yeah, kind of stick with what you know is going to be quality, and then she grew from there. And of course, the hand in hand with this whole story is the relationship she developed with the growers. Because it has to work for them too.
So what were when you guys started, and I'm sorry, what year did you guys start?
So 2006. Okay, so that's our first vintage.
18 years.
Yeah.
You guys have been going. That's really good. Awesome. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
What were the first wines that you guys started with, and what were some of the lessons that you learned from like those first couple? I mean, obviously besides the Viognier, I guess.
Yeah.
What were some lessons you learned from those first couple of wines, and are any of them besides the Viognier still around today?
Yeah. 2006, our first vintage. I can still remember. We thought it was a big deal. We made 2 barrels of Syrah.
Wow.
So each barrel is approximately 22 cases of
So
wine.
that's almost 50 cases.
Yeah. So, being a Coug, we thought, all right, well, we can drink this with our friends if it doesn't work out. We made those we made those at Bill Frazier's winery, which it doesn't exist anymore, but it was right next to the BSU campus. And Bill was a phenomenal friend, and they really helped us out. Melanie exchanged, in the early years, would exchange some of her consulting skills, because at this point she was 6 years in the industry. So she would do some consulting for people in exchange for the use of their facility and equipment. So we would buy the grapes, we'd buy the barrels. It was one of the ways we kept costs down. Awesome. So that first year was Syrah, and then that was 06. And then 07, we started to branch out, and we made Syrah again. Now, of course, it's a red wine, so it takes roughly 2 years to get to market. Mm-hmm. So now it was time to make white wines. We wanted to come to market in 08 with reds and whites. So in 07, Melanie made Viognier and a rosé of Syrah.
Okay.
And those, to this day, they form the core of kind of our spring release, is kind of Rhone focused. So every spring we normally come out with a Syrah, with a Viognier, maybe even a couple different styles of Viognier, depending on the year, and then always a rosé of Syrah.
What's the difference in technique, or what?
Sure.
I mean, it sounds like it's the same grape, right?
It is the same grape, but it's going to be completely different even out in the vineyards. So we're going to ask our growers to farm the rosé of Syrah, the Syrah grapes that we're going to use for rosé, in a different manner than we are the red Syrah. We're going to have a higher crop load. So just for example, it might be something around 3 to 4 tons per acre for our Syrah, for our red. And then for our rosé, we're going to probably ask for a higher yield. It might be 5 to 6. And then our canopy is going to be a little bit different, canopy management. And so there's going to be a little bit more shade on those rosé of Syrah, and then grapes. And then we're probably going to be picking those earlier. And all of these things are due to the fact we're making 2 totally different wines. And in a lot of ways, you can consider a rosé is essentially a white wine made out of a red grape. Yeah. So everything that we do, from the farming, and then when we pick it, the flavor profile that we're looking for, and then especially when we bring it into the winery, we're making a white wine. So what that means is we're really only, when it gets to fermentation, we're really only dealing with the juice. One of the big differences when you make red wine versus a white wine, when you bring it into the winery, a red wine is sometimes destemmed and then crushed, but basically the bottom line is that when the fermentation happens, the reds are still on their skin. It's all about that beautiful chemistry that happens during fermentation with a red wine on the skins, because we're really getting everything out of the skins, the color,
pulling everything out of
the color, the texture,
tannins?
the aromas,
Is that what tannins
the tannins, yep. That whole family of compounds. When it comes to a white wine, for the most part, what we do is we bring those grapes in, and we press them. So we're just press the juice out, and we're dealing with just liquid. Yeah. So the stems,
like a cider sort of.
You're pressing it. Now with a rosé, you might leave it on the skins a little bit just to get color, a little bit of pink or salmon, but you're not starting the fermentation until you just have clean, clear juice or slightly colored juice. And then you're starting the fermentation, and those fermentations are kept at a really cool temperature. Whereas the reds, for instance, the reds will ferment in our winery in Garden City. They'll ferment at, say, 80, 85, 88 degrees. They're going to get warm, and that's okay. You can kind of imagine that as like your coffee. You want hot temperatures when you're making tea or coffee, right? And you're going to get better extraction of all these interesting compounds. And then with the white wines, when we have just that juice, we're keeping them cool. We don't want the fermentation to go too fast. And by keeping it cool, we're sort of protecting the white wine, and we're making sure that we don't lose any of the beautiful, tiny aromatic compounds that make a white wine like this Viognier so special. If we we didn't control those temperatures, if we didn't keep those temperatures, let's say in the 50-degree range, 55, let's say, the fermentation would go too quickly and too rapidly. And one of the byproducts of fermentation is alcohol, another is CO2, and another is heat. And if we produce too much CO2 in too short of a window, because the temperature isn't controlled, then it's really cool. It will look like it's almost boiling. The vat, the tank, whatever you have it in, it looks like it's boiling. Of course, it's not boiling as we would think it. It's not the temperature, but there's so much CO2 being released, it boils, and that boiling will unfortunately kind of wick out all of the little aromatic molecules that are delicate, and bye-bye, there goes all your flavors and aromas. And
Bye-bye flavor.
Yeah, and you have a very
so
sad white wine, yeah.
So, I don't know if you know this or not, but with brewing, there's two different types of yeast that are used. There's lager yeast and there's ale yeast. And one of them ferments on top and one of them on the bottom. I can never remember which one is which. I think lager is bottom. I think ale is top. I could be wrong. Okay. But lager, you have to ferment at a lower temperature, at 33, 34 degrees. With ale, you can ferment them anywhere from 55 to 75 degrees. It doesn't really matter. So your guys, the yeast you use it sounds like it can ferment at any of those temperatures, but you want obviously the white wines and probably the reds as well to be fermented. So you ferment them at a lower temperature. Does that make do other wineries ferment at a higher temperature to make different wines, or do they do that, or does everyone try to keep it right around that 50 degrees?
Yeah, there's a similarity there. There's a similarity, but it's and it has to do more with.
Is there a lager wine? Is what I'm asking.
I would. Yeah, no, totally, I get it. And your lager, it kind of makes sense. Your lagers are more crisp, refreshing. They're more delicate, maybe you could say, and then the ales are more robust. And I think, and the temperatures are lower for the more delicate beer and a little bit higher for the more robust beer. And that's because you want different things at the end of the day. And I think you could then, on simplistic terms, you could say white wines in general, not all of them, but most of them are more like lagers. And you want to keep those temperatures lower. And then red wines are more like an ale. They can benefit from warmer temperatures. I wouldn't necessarily say that the yeasts are. Then when it comes to yeasts, I would say that, probably like brewers, winemakers have a library of yeasts. Oh, no kidding. If you go into our winery and go for a tour, we have a little area where we talk about yeasts, and you can see the shelf with all the bags of yeast. And it looks like little bags of coffee, about that size. And there's a lot of variety that my wife and her team will use. They've come to find that there's some nuance in particular yeasts and how they operate and sort of what they help the wine do during fermentation. So she certainly has yeasts she likes for whites, for reds, but then even inside her red wine portfolio, she might have ones that she enjoys for Syrahs or for Tempranillos, etc. So you can really go down a rabbit hole, but you've definitely hit on a clear relationship there, which is with brewing, where we kind of have those lighter lagers, and that process is similar to your lighter white wines, and then the ales are a little bit more similar to reds. And I would say that to touch on your other part of the question, do other winemakers do things differently with regards to their winemaking? Absolutely. To do with their temperatures, I would say when it comes to white wines, you're really running a risk if you don't keep your temperatures low during fermentation, that you're going to be out of business pretty soon, because your white wines are going to be kind of like, I would say, just flat, and you lose all the booze. Now there's all sorts of interesting things that red wines you can do. There's cold soaks. There's all sorts of cool nuances, extended maceration, longer fermentations, that are certainly part of different winemakers' approaches to red wines. But that idea of you gotta be able to control temperature if you're going to make aromatic white wines, or you're going to be in a world of hurt. Now you could have that. You could have a cave. You could do that with a cave, in the old days, or you could, nowadays it's with
I like a good wine cave.
Yeah, wine cave. Glycol tanks, that's really, so there is some investment you have to make to make something that's like this Viognier. You got to sink some money into a little bit of capital. Glycol chillers and stainless steel tanks that are jacketed.
The nice thing about those is they never break down or need repair, right?
I'm hearing the little bit of sarcasm. Our cellar,
quite a bit.
Our cellar master Jack would disagree vehemently with you, but he's not here today. As the part of the marketing and sales, yes, I will tell you, it's all simple.
I've noticed that you guys use a lot of different grapes. You guys have a ton of different wines that are available. You have a really nice portfolio of wines. What sort of grapes are you using? Are you 100% Idaho with your grapes, or are you using grapes from other regions? Where do you guys kind of pick and choose your grapes from?
Well, when we started Cinder in 2006, it was with the idea that we were going to always be about this local region, the Snake River Valley, which is essentially like this high elevation desert, AVA, American Viticultural Area. It's a federal designation. I think it was designated in 2007. And it runs essentially from kind of Twin Falls, Idaho, to over into Oregon, like Ontario, Oregon. So almost exclusively our wines have been made from this region. And that's even where our name comes from. Cinder is named after the volcanic cinder, the volcanic rock that is underneath a lot of the vineyards here. So this area, the Snake River Valley, AVA, if you look at it on a map, the border of that viticultural area is essentially the shoreline of ancient Lake Idaho, which was here something along the lines of 15 million years ago.
1972.
So we have lake sediment here, and then there was volcanic activity underneath the water, underneath the lake. So we have a lot of volcanic deposits. So it was always about let's go to Boise. Let's see what other varieties other than Viognier catch our eye. Let's make a go for it. And wine is so, I think one of the reasons that people love it so much is that people understand that wine is tied to a place. And so there's been a couple of years, specifically 2017, where we had to source outside of Idaho, I should say, because of a frost. Yeah. But for the most part, I would say if you look at our entire portfolio and what we've made in 18 or plus years, 97% of it is from the Snake River Valley. Now, that does go over into Oregon. So we do work with the Martin family over in Adrian, Oregon, and they have a outstanding vineyard there called Emerald Slope. So we do purchase from them. We do have a great relationship with that family. They're wonderful, but they're part of the Snake River Valley as well.
Yeah, you can grandfather them in. They're part of the AVA, so you get to use that. It's all good. Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. It's great that you're using so many Idaho-based grapes. That's really refreshing. So it sounds like you guys had some help when you started up. You talked about the Williamson family and how they maybe helped get you guys along. And I've heard that you guys kind of are doing the same. You're kind of paying it forward by helping other wineries out. How many different wineries have you guys incubated there at Cinder and helped out? And what has been kind of the impetus for that? Because a lot of us are, very competitive. And it seems like you guys are just really, really super nice to everybody that comes in. So what has that kind of been like? Who have you kind of had come through the doors, and what is that process like too when you start to see them go out and kind of make their own way in the wine industry?
Yeah, I would say that we've had really good business relationships with several labels in during their growth period, and it's certainly not just altruistic. These were business relationships that made sense. I would say, let's see, if you were to go through our kind of chronologically, 2006, Bill Frazier, we make 2 barrels at his site. Again, due to Melanie being able, having a friendship with Bill being a really generous and kind guy, and also he wanted some consulting on his winemaking. 2007, a similar relationship, because now we're bigger, happens with our white wines at Sawtooth and Brad Pintler, and then our red wines out at Parma Ridge, out in Parma. And again, trading for consulting. But at that point, 07's done, and we're too big to kind of just be sharing space with folks, and we don't want to burn bridges, and we need to find our own space. So we found a warehouse in Garden City that was almost completely empty. At the time, it's a big building, way bigger than we needed at the time, but the landlord was willing to rent us, I would say probably a quarter of it, a couple cold rooms with floor drains. When I first looked at it, I said, oh my gosh, this place it's a dump. Melanie knew. Melanie said, oh no, this is perfect, high ceilings. And, she knew what she was talking about. And we've, one of the many times that I followed her advice and it all worked out. So, but even then we had 2 rooms, and it was going to be too big. It was going to be quite a bit of, for us to carry. And so at that time we kind of we did like a cooperative. And what I mean by that is we shared the space and equipment. We split the rent, and everybody did their own thing. Everybody made their own wine, made their own styles. And that was with Mike Crowley with Syringa Winery and John Danielson with Vale Winery. And that relationship worked out. I think that ran its course for about 3 years. Mike and then John both went and found their own spaces. We decided we were going to stay in the building. It was working for us. And we ran, I think, a couple more years on our own, in our own space. And then we started up a relationship in conversation with Leslie Preston, who owns Coiled, and Earl and Carrie Sullivan with Talaya, and sort of did another version of somewhat like of a cooperative, where we said, okay, we got more space in that winery and that building, and we said, let's see if we can spread the costs out. Everybody gets to make their own wine. We'll be making their own calls, but we can share like a forklift. We can share a press, a crusher, destemmer, all these big ticket items that it's kind of ridiculous when you're trying to make maybe 1,000 cases that you have to go into all this debt. So that was great. That worked for, again, another handful of years. Then they moved out with their own success and got their own places. We even had Catherine House of Wine, had her laboratory in our building for a while. Now she runs a successful wine shop in downtown Boise, and she's at the vanguard of wine education in the Valley. So it's been great. I mean, Kat, Leslie, Earl have all gone on to do really well. Vale was purchased, so that was good. That was purchased. I think that kind of Mike retired and went into a different industry. I think he went on to nursing. But we've met a lot of people, and hopefully they still like us.
Yeah, I think the main thing you said there was that you had a lot of people in sort of the co-op, as you called it, because you guys had that press, right? Were you guys the only ones that had a press at the time? Was that the big deal? Was that why your building was the one everyone came to, or was it just because it worked out financially for everybody just to share like kind of a common space?
Well, you'd have to ask them why they decided to throw in their lot with us. It's difficult because you want to imagine like a cooperative kitchen with 3 different chefs, right? And then there's a shared restaurant out front where you can go taste appetizers of each of them. What we were able to do and not kill each other was pretty magical at the time. And everybody did it because you needed to do it for financial reasons, and also because we trusted each other to a certain degree, that none of us were going to, one, make bad wine, right? And two, that we all wanted to create a good experience in the tasting room for our customers, because now we were
I bet that was an amazing tasting room.
It was fun. We had, Coil, Talaya, Cinder. And I mean, gosh, I got to see Earl and Carrie's kids, their boys grow up in front of us. And they got to see when we brought our little baby in, our two babies in at the, Charlie and then Rowan 2 years later. So we still see those guys. I still see Earl occasionally. And it's awesome to see their success. We respect their winemaking and what they've done. And I think one of the things that's important to recognize is that, you might be competing with somebody on a level, but if I go back to the idea that wine is about place, you're never unhappy to see people in your region, in the Snake River Valley, making beautiful wine. Because people, especially with wine, they start to hear about a region, and then they start to investigate further, and that only helps all the other wineries in the region. So shout out to those guys, and their kids are all growing up, and it's crazy to hear about Ty and Jake Sullivan, and it's awesome to see.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to take a little break. This is Joe Schner from Cinder Wines is here with us right now. Just got done talking about sort of the origins of his winery and where we're going from there. And we're going to come right back. We're going to look at some of his wines and kind of go through the portfolio, if you would. This is the Idaho Booze Podcast.
This show brought to you by Snake River Wine Tours. I am writing a book about Idaho wine, and I needed to get out to wine country. I had to introduce myself. I had to see how the wine was made. And Snake River Wine Tours was there for me. They provided an expert tour guide, John, who was very nice and knew everything about every winery we went to. I didn't have to worry about getting lost. I didn't have to worry about driving home. All I had to do was sit back and relax. And wouldn't you know it, I brought 4 friends with me and my wife. We all hung out. We had a blast. There were snacks. There was water, anything you could need. But the best part about Snake River Wine Tours was the behind the scenes access that we got. We had an expert from every winery come and tell us all about all the wines. We did tastings that nobody else was able to do. We did things behind the scenes that other people just didn't get access to, all because we went with Snake River Wine Tours. And this can happen for you too. And they'll accommodate any group, from an intimate 2-person wine tour, little adventure for 2, all the way up to private groups up to 64 people. They will get you out there and in style too. The van was big, it was comfortable, it had tons of room, and we had a great time. You make friends when you go on like a mixed tour like we did. We were singing and laughing the whole way home. It was an amazing trip. We were able to do it on a Sunday, which was amazing. We went out on a Sunday and hit up a bunch of wineries, and you can do it too. And they plan 7 days a week, year round. You can make your trip starting today at snakeriverwinetours.com. Voted #1 by USA Today. There you go. That's all you need to know. Snake River Wine Tours for the best adventure out on the sunny slope in the Snake River AVA. Go to snakeriverwinetours.com today. Did you know that Boise Beer Buddies actually covers the entire state of Idaho? Yeah, plus parts of Oregon, Wyoming, and Nevada. You can be a buddy in 4 states. And it's never been a better time to be a buddy with Boise Beer Buddies. With so many amazing bars, restaurants, breweries, wineries, and speakeasies to choose from in the Gem State. Plus, oh man, the cost of beer, wine, and cocktails just continues to skyrocket. Why not save a couple bucks per trip out? Save $1 off your first pint at the Pour Company in Moscow. Get $1 off your first pint at the new St. Agony Brewing in St. Anthony. Head to Reno. Get 10% off all beer and wearables at Revision Brewing. Use my promo code BOOZEPOD and get a Boise Beer Buddy card for your best drinking buddy just in time for Labor Day. Do that today at BoiseBeerBuddies.com and get the Boise Beer Buddies app. Be a buddy and join Boise Beer Buddies today.
Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm Steve Kuntz here with Joe Schner from Cinder. Joe, what up?
Steve, thank you for your time. This is fun. The coffee was incredible. I'm ready to go for another 4 hours.
Shout out to Costco. Great job by you guys roasting those beans. No one does it better than Kirkland. I've said it once. I've said it a million times. So we talked about the Viognier. We talked about kind of how you guys started. Now I kind of want to get into some of these other wines you have, because there's only a few here that you guys sell. Just a few.
Yeah, the portfolio is one of the things where the breadth of our portfolio is something we're really proud of, and we stand by each one of them. But I'd be happy to talk about some of those for sure. Like I was saying earlier, we kind of started off with those Rhone varieties in the early years of Cinder. So the Syrah, the red Syrah, a rosé of Syrah, and then of course the Viognier. And those are sort of what you would imagine are from the Rhone in France, aromatic. And they have their special, unique flavor profiles here. But that was primarily what we were known for those first, I'd say, 5 to 8 years. But already Melanie had her eye on some other varieties, in particular the Tempranillo.
Follow that palate.
Yeah.
Follow that palate.
Yeah, exactly. Don't mess with the talent.
Yeah, I was going to say the Tempranillo looks nice. I'm looking at your fall releases right now. Looks like you have a 2022 Tempranillo out there that looks like it got Best Tempranillo from Sip Magazine. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell us about that wine.
Yeah, so Tempranillo, I always kind of start red wine. Always kind of start often with where their ancestral home was or is in Europe, and of course this isn't, disclaimer. To our knowledge, these are sort of some of the oldest vineyards in the world for Tempranillo. So you'd be going to Spain, and you'd be going to primarily two regions: the Rioja region in northern Spain, into the Basque Country. A lot of reds there are primarily Tempranillo, or that's the significant grape. And then the Ribera del Duero, which definitely look that up. It's a mouthful, but it's a little south. It's kind of north of Madrid. And that's kind of an ocean of a sea of Tempranillo grapes as well. And that region, the Ribera del Duero, has a lot of similarities to the Snake River Valley. So here and in the Ribera del Duero, we kind of have a high elevation desert. High elevation in winemaking terms is going to be, for us here in Idaho, 2,200 feet, and low rainfall here, which the Tempranillo grape just loves. So Tempranillo is you can make a very big, robust, you could say masculine red wine. The tannins can be somewhat aggressive and rough in a good way. And we've had a tremendous success. I think probably the first Tempranillo that we fell in love with here in Idaho was from Sawtooth. Brad Pintler at the time, winemaker, and caught Melanie's eye, and then start talking to growers. Hey, can I get a couple tons of this from your vineyard or that vineyard?
Follow the palate.
Follow the palate. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna get a tattoo of that.
T-shirt. Okay, tattoo. Yes.
Yeah,
tattoo.
Yeah. My wife will love that. And so we've had a lot of success with it. We kept following that, and then we had other vineyards plant for us. If we go back over to the Martins over there in Adrian, Oregon, the Emerald Slopes, they planted and grow some wonderful Tempranillo, and we still get great Tempranillo from Sawtooth Vineyard as well, and others have planted. And so you could some ways you could say that in Spain, Tempranillo is the royal grape. It's sort of their version of the French have Cabernet Sauvignon. So you're going to get these bigger, full-bodied reds out of them. Where Tempranillo gets different than, say, a Cab is, where instead of, for me, I don't really get like the cherry flavor profiles that you'll get in your Cabernet Sauvignons. Instead, it's going to be there'll be a little bit of red fruit, maybe in a way sort of like a cranberry, but what you're primarily going to get more so is you're going to get some earthy aromas. You might get leather or tobacco. It's a really fun red wine. I love Tempranillo with any food that has a little bit of char on it. So of course, think barbecue season, open flame.
Just on you, I was already thinking about barbecue.
You're in, yeah.
Before you even said that, I was thinking about barbecue.
Yeah, and you don't have to get fancy either. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be meat. You could even do. I absolutely love getting some poblano peppers on an open flame on the grill. Maybe a little bit of olive oil on them. Then when they come off, tiny little bit of sea salt, and you're in.
Making me hungry, Joe.
Yeah, you're in like Flynn there. So
with a little Tempranillo.
Yeah, Tempranillo is going to be your jam there. So I would say it's definitely opened our eyes that the Snake River Valley can be successful with Rhone varieties, and we've even added on that end. We have the Viognier, we have the Syrah, we have the Rosé of Syrah, and then we've added a red wine that's a red blend. It's called Rowen. Rowen. That's a nice Celtic, Gaelic first name for a little boy that lives with us. Rowan.
One that may or may not live with you.
Yeah.
Share your last name.
Yep. Rowan Bradley Schner. And so he is layered and wonderful, and so is that wine. And that's a what we would call a GSMC. So Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, Cinsault. Those are all Rhone varieties. Rhone
those
reds.
First three, GSM.
Yeah,
that's a pretty popular blend for Walla Walla and for other regions here, right?
Yep, you nailed it. Yeah, and we just GSMC. It sounds like a truck.
Yeah, GMSC.
So that's that portfolio over there. The Rhone side has grown, and then the Rowan. And then, and just a disclaimer so that I don't get in trouble with any of the ladies out there. Our daughter also has a red wine named
Valentina.
Here. So that's more of a classic Bordeaux. It's a really nice red wine. That's most years it's Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Malbec blended together. It's one of our best sellers. So we had made that one first. And so she got to lord that over our son for several years until we thought, just for sibling rivalry's sake, we better make a wine.
Run around the house with her bottle of wine.
Yeah.
I've got a bottle of wine that won best in class.
Siblings are great to each other.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
They toughen each other up for the real world. So, our portfolio grew on the Rhone variety side, and then we had this foothold with a Spanish variety that we loved, and we had growers here in the Snake River Valley that had already been embracing it, and more that were doing that. And Melanie was getting more and more excited about Tempranillo, and we did a little research trip. This was when our daughter was only she went on the trip with us. She was 3 months old, and we went to Spain. We went to the Ribera del Duero and to Rioja. We were there to taste. We really went for you. We went for you guys in the public.
That.
Yep, we did it. It was tough.
Anytime you can go to Spain for me, please take the opportunity to do it. And not just you, Joe. Anyone out there?
Yeah,
take the opportunity to go for me.
I'm willing to do it. When we were there, when we were in the Ribera del Duero, my wife said, let's go to a little region to the west. It's called Rueda. We're only a few hour drive away. The Rueda is primarily focuses on one grape, and that's Verdejo, and it's a white grape. It makes a white wine. And we went there, and we just fell in love with that grape. We were so impressed. It has a very interesting body and aroma that you probably wouldn't expect for a super hot region. And when we came back to Boise, we were speaking with our growers, and I was asking Melanie, could you get anybody to grow Verdejo for us? Who would be crazy enough to do that? And of course, it was the Martin family.
I was just gonna guess. Is it the Martin family?
Yeah, they already were in love with Tempranillo, with Iberian, with Spanish varieties.
You find it? I don't know the Martins. I wish I did.
Yeah.
Welcome to come on the show anytime. Have you found that some of these wines, the Verdejos, the Tempranillos, stuff like that, have been really accepted by the Basque community here in Boise? Do they really enjoy those, or do you guys just make them because that's what the land says to do?
It's so interesting. It's both. I mean, it's because we love it because it just does well here. But what a coincidence that this large population
Both Spanish wines and Spanish people do really well here.
That's right. The Basque have flourished here, and the grapes that the Basque are familiar with, especially Tempranillo, have flourished here as well. So that's a cool story all unto itself. But Tim and Chris Martin, his wife Chris, they said, "Yeah, we'll do this. Let's do a deal. Let's shake hands on this." And that just shows the level of trust and comfort that you have to have between your winemaker and your grower. Between that conversation when we returned from that trip to the first day when we poured a Verdejo wine finished in a bottle for our customers was a 7-year journey. Yeah.
Is the 2023 the first release of that? Or?
No, I think it was, let me do the math here. That was, Charlie was just born, 2010, 2011 was the handshake, 2019, maybe.
7 years.
Yeah.
Well, because they got to grow the vines and they got to grow the grapes, right?
I mean, you can even go back more. First, you have to, Tim's got to evaluate his site. Where is he going to put these?
Yeah.
Right. That's a science into itself, and you don't just jump into that, or you're not going to do a good job. You got to evaluate your site. You got to rip the soil, test it, prepare it, and then
sunlight, water, all that stuff, right?
You got to make. Obviously, he already had grapes doing well, but you got to pick. Okay, I'm going to put a Verdejo block in here. You got to prepare that land. And you also have to find the plant material. So what you don't do is you don't just go to Home Depot or to your local.
You can't just go to Sam's house.
I love Sam's house. Yeah, but you don't go.
I need Verdejo.
You don't
seeds.
do that. Yeah.
And maybe some Verdejo Boom.
You don't. Yeah. They don't have your grass growing program with Zamzos and then
the vineyards program.
Your vineyard program. No.
Well, you know what? Free business opportunity out there, Sam's house. Get on it.
It's a whole, we're talking about an agricultural product. So right off the bat, you have a lot of things riding on whether or not the rootstock, because you don't plant seeds for vineyards. You actually plant, it essentially looks like a stick.
Yeah.
You plant the root.
Same with hops. Yeah. Plant a stick.
Okay. So similar to like an orchard, you might be doing with orchards, you might be doing grafting.
Rhizome. It's called rhizome, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
plant the stick.
You have to go somewhere where you're assured you're going to invest thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in the vineyard itself, thousands of dollars in the rootstocks, tens of thousands of dollars in the rootstock and the plant material. You have to be assured that they are disease free. So you have to go to, there's only a select number of nurseries in the Pacific Northwest that even have the certification of disease-free rootstock. So you got to go there. Then you have to find out if they have that variety. And when it comes to something like Verdejo, the answer is often, well, not yet, but give us a year or so before, then we'll get some going for you. So what an experience, a lot of patience. And in the end, just couldn't be happier with the result. In fact, now, for a while there, we would say, this is the only Verdejo grown in the Snake River Valley. But now I believe the Williamsons have planted it, and maybe someone else is considering it, but it's successyou
guys have made it. We'll get back to it. I'd like to talk about the club here in a little bit, but it looks like the 2023 is club only. So you guys, how many bottles are you making of the Verdejo?
I want to say that our Verdejo production is now probably somewhere close to 400 cases. So, and there's 12 bottles in a case. Our club has a definite appetite for that, and that's wonderful to see that it's in demand. So in such a case that we just kind of limit that to our club members. But there's more Verdejo out there. If you can't come down and get it at our tasting room, you certainly can come and have a glass of it at our tasting room and see if you like it. But that's been a really cool thing, and so the portfolio has grown. That first year from 2 barrels, so let's say 50 cases of Syrah and 1 wine in 06, and now we have a portfolio of, let's say, about 15 wines per year, and we do about 10,000 cases.
So still, it's pretty small operation still, only 15 wines per year. That's not that many. I mean, that's a pretty good job of kind of restraining yourselves and making sure that everything is up to your standards, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my wife would be happy to make a couple more varieties, and we will. We have a kind of a second tasting room opening that will be all about our second label, which is Laissez Faire. And she'll be able to do some more expression there, and some different wines will be entertained there. But the portfolio of Cinder, it keeps everybody busy. 15 or so wines. We'll do a couple wines a year that are just for the club. There'll be some of them will be ways to experiment, and some will be reserves or just in such a small amount that we just want to make sure our club members get.
You have one named Ville des Jardins.
Ville des Jardins.
Is that a hard L? Ville des Jardins. I gotta remember my French.
Yeah.
And that is literally, what does that mean in French?
Ville is town. Des Jardins. The jardin is garden. So it's the name is a little play on words there as an ode to our home in Garden City.
So let's talk about the other brand, Laissez Faire. Also French, more French.
I know, right? Yeah.
What is the difference between what is sort of the idea behind the Laissez Faire label?
Sure. So Laissez Faire means hands off, let it be. This was over dinner a long time ago. We had Cinder going.
Very French saying, by the way, Laissez Faire.
Yeah.
Very French.
So we just kind of noticed that. Well, I was picking my wife's brain, I should say, and I had noticed and wanted to drill down a little more to a couple of things. One was, why do we, other than price point, why do we enjoy a lot of these European wines at dinner, pizza night, et cetera, et cetera. Not only is it nice to open a wine that's less expensive on pizza night, right, than a lot of you can imagine, at the time, young couple got like $2 in our pocket. So the American wines that we were drinking, they were high end, but we were getting them from Northwest wineries in trade, right? We would trade some of ours, so some of our buddies in Washington primarily, but also Oregon. And a lot of those wines had big structure, and they were gorgeous in their own way, but some of them often needed some time to age. And also with that price point, it was like, I don't really want to open this $40 bottle of red wine for pizza from Guido's tonight. So we would go to the Boise Co-op, nice, great wine shop here in Boise. And Melanie would find some red wines from Europe, and we would pop them and we would enjoy them. And they were well made. And I started to ask her, why are they different? Why do we enjoy them with food more, so to say, or maybe not with that we enjoy them more with food, but they're easier to pair with food. And she said, kind of at broad brushstrokes, the many European wines have higher acid and somewhat lighter body, and sometimes a lighter touch with oak than American wines do. And of course, when we're talking about American wines, we're primarily talking about California, right? And I love wines from California, don't get me wrong. But that was kind of the conversation. Okay, so lighter bodied, high acid wines, they're a little bit more food friendly. They're certainly, I would say, if not food friendly, they're easier to pair. So it's simple. You're not stressing about what to pull out at dinner, and they're less expensive. So I said, well, could you make a wine that's of that style? And she said, yeah, I could. And I was like, man, you're cocky. She said, I said, well, how will you do the higher acid? How will you obtain the higher acidity in the wine? And she said, well, we have a hotter region than a lot of European wines. So if we pick at the same time, ours is going to have lower acid, just because that's how it works. As a grape gets riper, the sugars go up and the acid goes down. So she said, I'd have to pick a little earlier on some of these, not incredibly earlier, but a little earlier to get a little more acid. And then also, I'm going to go for that lighter body. How I'm going to create that is I'm going to do a slightly less robust extraction process. So when we talk about when we destem and then crush our grapes, often for Laissez Faire, the reds will be will be whole berry fermentation. So a very light crushing or no crushing at all. Now there will be, and what that does, I should say, is that it slows down the skin juice contact, and that's where a lot of the power and the flavor and the structure of the wine is extracted from the skins. And so if you do a whole berry fermentation or light extraction process, you kind of lower that. And so she went on and on with these different things that she would do. Another thing that we do with in particular the Laissez Faire Red, which is a blend of Sangiovese and some other varieties. What we do there is all neutral barrels in our aging.
Is that steel or neutral wood barrels?
It's a neutral oak. It's a wood barrel.
Okay.
And
first use, I guess?
So one of the things about barrels is that, when they toast the barrel, when the coopers toast the barrel, right?
Okay, yeah.
They have that essentially like a sugar layer on the inside of the barrel.
Yeah.
And when you put your wine in that, the sugar layer dissolves into the wine over time. And so and it's essentially, it's like imparting flavors and texture to the wine. It's a wonderful process. And similar things going on with whiskey, right? They char their barrels.
Yep. So you guys do like a zero char on it.
So we don't do the charring or anything. Right. What we do is we get a brand new barrel from a cooper, and we use it. And we use it the first year on a Cinder Syrah, let's say.
Yeah.
And then we use it the second year again on a Cinder Syrah. And then the third year we use it again on a Cinder Syrah. After about 3 to 4 years, winemakers start to call those barrels neutral.
Okay.
Because that sugar layer is gone.
Yeah, they become table bases.
Yes, they can become furniture. And a lot of people say, well, why do you use any neutral barrels? Well, neutral barrels are phenomenal, and they're a great aging vessel. And all of our Laissez Faire Red will be, if it touches oak, it'll all be neutral barrels. Whereas, let's say our Syrah, for example, that's probably, give or take, it's about 70% neutral barrels and 30% new oak. And then of course it's all blended together at the end, right before we bottle it. But
also, let's be fair.
Yeah,
you're trying to keep the Laissez Faire at about $25 a bottle.
That's right.
So if you're going out and buying new barrels for every single one of these wines, the price is going to go up. So this is very much like anything else. You want to make something that's at a different price point. You can't just make the same thing you make over and over again. You have to do it different.
Yeah, and it's wonderful because the flavor profile we're going for requires 0 to little new oak, and the price point does as well. And so when we make Laissez Faire Red, so we end up with a wine that doesn't need as much aging, because a lot of what's going on when you age a wine is you're waiting for the fruit flavors, the flavors from the grape, and the flavors from the oak to marry and to become somewhat indistinguishable. So that if you drink a red wine too young, like in the cellar, it's kind of fun, but you taste, and it's like 1 second, there's the fruit, there's the oak.
Yeah.
And you need 2 years.
There's the fruit, there's the booze.
Yeah. There's the wood, it's, so with the Laissez Faire Red, it's nice because not only do we have no new oak barrels in there, which lowers the price, but also we have half the rent, right? This is ready in 6 to 9 months instead of 18 to 24 months.
Yeah, another thing.
So
people probably don't realize is you have to. It's just like on a car lot. Like if a wine is taking up space in the cellar, that's where other wine could be, right? So,
it's racking up costs.
It's racking up costs. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
cool.
The utilities and rent, and
everything. Yeah, come on, wine, pull your weight.
Yeah. So that was kind of a fun conversation over the dinner table before kids. That was 14, 15 years ago. And Melanie said, yeah, I can do that. I'll sort of take this approach. And then I came in with the marketing, right? I gotta contribute somehow, right? Because she's doing
Here comes Joe with his label ideas.
Yeah, so I said, Laissez Faire, hands off, let it be. And
That's
and
nice.
then we quickly ran over to the computer to see if that was trademarked yet, because It's kind of a brilliant little.
You guys fired up the internet. At the time, it took a full start. Didn't it? 14 years ago.
So we quickly slapped a label on something, took a picture of it. No.
Yeah.
We got it
Sent it to
trademarked.
yourself in the mail.
Yeah, got it trademarked and off to the races. And Laissez Faire has been, it's been nice. And through the years, we've experimented with white wines and made them and then stopped making them and this and that. And, we've really, to be honest, our primary focus has been on Cinder.
Sure.
Growing that portfolio. And now recently we were able to say, okay, let's get a space, a tasting room where Laissez Faire can come out of the shadow of Cinder, and let's see what we can do with it. So we'll, in 2025, hopefully in May, we will open the Laissez Faire Wine Company tasting room. It will be in Garden City. We love Garden City. But we'll be right on the
Ville des Jardins, as I like to call it.
Jardin. We will be there. We'll be in Garden City. We'll be right on the Greenbelt, so right on the paved walking path that's along the beautiful Boise River. Mm-hmm. And we'll be on 41st Street. We'll be in the ground level plaza facing the Greenbelt in the Boardwalk apartment complex, which is absolutely gorgeous.
It's the giant cruise ship thing.
It looks kind of like a cruise ship, a wavy architectural front.
Yeah, it looks just like not kind of.
It's a little bit like a love boat.
Yeah, it's a love boat. Yeah, that's a good name for it. The Garden City Love Boat.
It'll be, and we're gonna do. It's primarily another thing that we were. I believe we were the first winery to do in Idaho. Is we put our wine in keg. For restaurants.
I also believe you were the first to do that.
It was wild.
Between you and Proletariat, Proletariat's not here, but it's between you guys, right?
Well, I don't know.
Those were the two that I saw first.
Yeah.
Was Cinder, for sure.
We've been doing that for
that's
15
interesting.
years.
So when I was at Edge, we bought wine from you guys.
Yes.
We put you guys on, and it was we did really well with it, and it was an amazing thing to have. Was the wine and kegs?
It's cool.
I totally forgot that you guys did that.
Yeah, that was. When we were in France years ago, this is before kids, and we were at a cafe in Lyon, and we saw them pouring not one, but three different types of rosé from the tap. And we came back and started doing research, and I got on the phone I read an article in like Wine Business Monthly, some like industry periodical sort of thing. And there was a guy interviewed. I wish I could remember his name. He was a winemaker in Oregon, and I got him on the phone. And he was a small winery in his region. The only way that he could get his wine poured by the glass was by putting it in the keg. You strip out all the bottling costs. That's one big thing. And also,
you don't have to tell me. I worked in the beer business. I get kegging.
Yeah, and also with wine, if you open a bottle, if a restaurateur is opening a bottle of red wine in the restaurant, often they think to themselves, and this is fair, they say, I have to make the cost of the bottle back in the first glass pour.
That's why a glass of wine costs as much as you pay for a bottle, kids.
Yeah,
and
for
once
wholesale.
they open that up, that's exactly what they say. So you got this idea from a trip to France, another research trip, and that's awesome. And so talk about how that's sort of, just kind of give us a brief overview of how that's sort of changed the game for you guys.
No, it was huge. There were very few restaurants that were willing to pour us by the glass. Just people would take us on by the bottle.
Because that's a huge thing for a winery, right? You want to be by the glass. You want to be on the glass menu. Right?
The volume's higher.
Yep.
And that's important to a degree for a small winery. But even more so, almost as important, is marketing. If you are in a little restaurant in Boise 10, 12 years ago, and you look on the list, oh my gosh, there's a local wine, Cinder Syrah, by the glass. It's not a lot of commitment. I'll spend $10. I'll try it out. And then now we got you because they're blown away. And now they want to find us. And it's wonderful, right? Yeah. And it's good for the restaurant too. But the idea of being able to hit that price point is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
With a bottle, right? Let's say I couldn't sell my wine wholesale to a restaurant direct for $12 or $10.
Yeah.
I was losing money. Right. But if you put it in the keg You can lower the cost a little bit, certainly lower
No
our
label,
costs.
no bottle, no cork.
Yeah, so cost of goods are way down.
Just so everybody knows, every single one of those things costs money.
Oh, yeah.
When you can beer, it's not just the can. It's the can, the top, the label, the printing, whatever else. Plus, you have to have a thing to fill it.
Yeah.
So these are all costs that you were able to kind of sidestep. You had to maybe buy a keg filler. What did you do? How did you fill up the keg?
That was simple. That wasn't a big deal. I think and we invested in some kegs at the time. Now we actually
and you had to buy some kegs.
We lease kegs from a company in California, and we send them back to them, and they clean them and they send them back to us.
There's like a MicroStar for wine.
Yeah, it's called Free Flow.
Free Flow.
They're all over the country. Check it out, brewers. If you don't already know about it. Yeah. If you don't know about those guys, it's a great program. And breweries use it too. The real thing that cracked the code with the keg wasn't our costs, but it was the math on the end of the restaurateur. Yeah. Because now, and I had to go over this math several times with wine buyers at restaurants, was they kept trying to back calculate. They'd look at a price of a keg, back calculate
$300 for this wine, for this keg.
Yeah,
my God.
Well, and they would also, and I understand, they tried to keep calculating it back to a bottle price.
Yeah.
And then they would say, okay, this costs $20 a bottle. So I don't know. I still have to charge $20 a glass. And I would say, I would do the math and show them what it costs per 6 ounce pour.
You charge $20 a glass for a beer? No.
Yeah.
You don't.
And I kept saying, we stand behind the keg for 60 to 90 days. And it was new math. It was new math. So then I said, look at this. This costs this much. You per 6 ounce, you get to charge this much. That's a nice margin.
Yeah.
You get these are not going to go bad. No. And
they're pushed with nitro, right? They're pushed with nitrogen or
nowadays everything's kind of advanced, and now they kind of have the infrastructure or the science locked down on wine and on tap. Mm-hmm. And sort of the way that most people go is like a bev gas, like a nitrogen CO2.
Oh, combo, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason is that they were originally pushing the wine, this is kind of nerdy, but they were pushing it with nitrogen with an inert gas.
We are all here for the nerdy stuff. Don't you worry about that.
So there's actually, even with a completely still wine, like not a sparkling wine, there is CO2 dissolved in the liquid.
Yeah,
and
it's a byproduct of
the
yeast.
It's still sitting in there well after it's been bottled. And so if you push with an inert gas, it tries to balance, and what it does is it ends up pushing CO2 out of solution. And so you end up with, you're kind of making your wine a little flatter.
Oh, weird.
So if you put a little CO2 in, it keeps it balanced with the CO2 that's in the wine. Okay. And that's great. So essentially, you're pushing with the same gas that you push beer with.
Yeah.
You push less. You push with only like 5 to 7 PSI.
Yeah.
A beer, I think, is like 14 sometimes PSI. But so you don't want to push with too much gas.
Right.
Like too much volume or PSI. But yeah, once we did that math,
break the wine glass,
restaurateurs were like, wow, this is great. So, you have to get the infrastructure. You can't.
It's so funny that people were like against that. As soon as I saw it, when we started getting it at Edge, maybe 6 months after I started there. So probably 2015 or 2016. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
And we started buying I know at one point we had Laissez Faire. We had both the Laissez Faires on. But I think we had the Syrah.
Syrah is what I remember.
And a white one, maybe the Viognier. I think it was the Viognier because we had a red.
You guys crushed it.
Yeah, and we crushed it with that stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, when my chef told me about it, I was like, yes, buy that. Do that now. Cool. Whatever it costs. Because the cost, because we didn't open a lot of wine.
Right.
And every time we opened a bottle of wine, it literally did cost us the first glass because, it would be 3 days before another person would order a glass of wine.
Yeah. I'll give a couple shout outs to some restaurateurs that helped us in, Dave Crick was a huge supporter of Cinder in those early days. And we've had other support from other great restaurateurs, Cameron Lubston at Fork as well. There's too many to list now.
I mean, you're talking about how by the glass is such an awesome marketing technique, but when you have the tap there and the tap is set up and it says Cinder there, that's
It's cool.
That's permanent. That's not going anywhere.
One of even though the restaurateurs were great and supported us, one of the first accounts, we actually don't have the account anymore, but the buyer, buyers change and owners change.
Let's get him back. We'll get him back, Joe.
But the Egyptian Theater in downtown Boise is such a cool place, right? And I had happened to know Joy Hart was the wine buyer and manager of the space at that time. And if you've ever been to the Egyptian Theater in Boise, it's like one night, it's like the governor's award in the arts. So it's like everyone's dressed up.
Yeah.
And then the next 4 nights it'll be closed. Then it'll be the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then it'll be Warren Miller.
Dressed up again.
yeah, different outfits. Then it'll be like Warren Miller ski. So each night it was closed, or the clientele was different, and they needed to hit different beverage points, different beverage styles and such. But they killed it because we could put the wine, really fine red wine on tap and white wine on tap. They could pour it all night, turn it off, lock the door, come back 7 days later. They clean the tap, but come back 7 days later, they got fine wine again. And they could never do that if they were opening bottles. They were just chucking them. So that was a cool adventure. It's done well for us. I've seen other wineries now in Idaho put their wine in keg.
Just between you and me right here.
Yeah, no, not telling anyone else.
It's just if they're not putting their wines in kegs right now, they are behind the 8 ball big time, because that is a game changer as far as, so my first beer job, everyone else knows this, you don't know this. My first beer job was in Utah, and our brewery was the only one that didn't brew 4% beer. We were the first one since Prohibition that didn't brew it because it tasted like garbage. It's just basically like something you drank to go to the bathroom at that point. It's pretty awful. And, come at me, bro. But we didn't do it. And so we couldn't keg anything in state. And our largest vendor, our largest client was the state of Utah, because all of our beer was sold in liquor stores, because they sell beer in liquor stores there and wine, which is another show. So we expanded to other states as quickly as we could so that we could put stuff into kegs, because it is so much cheaper and so much more cost efficient and so much easier to get it out to the client. And for some people, it tastes better. I get that. And it's just like, there's no shipping. The shipping cost goes way down. It's everything. It's a game changer. So you guys changing the game on kegged wine, that is an amazing thing. I can't believe I forgot about that until you said that, because I remember when we first got them in, and I was just like, yes, this is the way wine should be served. Because, they basically have been doing that in Europe forever. It used to just be in barrel, like literal barrels, right?
Just drink out of the barrel. I think when I got that gentleman on the phone in Oregon who was in the article about wine and keg, he was great. He gave me his time, and he said, Joe, one thing I want you to do, and I'm adamant about this, is when you go to market with this kegged wine, put your highest end, most well-regarded wine in the keg and go to market. Don't put, if you have a second label or something else that's you would consider a lower price point, do not go out in the market. And I said, why? He said, because one of the things that the buyer is going to be concerned about is quality and reputation. And if you lead with your strong one, then they'll see that you trust the process of putting wine in keg, that it won't go bad or anything like that. And he was right. I went with Syrah at the time, which was almost like our only red at the time, but was well regarded.
Yeah.
And he was right. And
totally right. 100% right.
It was cool. It was cool to see. And it's funny. We have a tasting room in Garden City where, obviously we're pouring wine. We're winemakers. But we have a tap system, and a lot of our wines are on tap. But we have beer. And because that just like when you were at Edge, someone comes in, they're there primarily for beer, but there's maybe one person in the group that would like a wine.
For sure.
So isn't it great?
The Valerie Kuntz of the group.
There you go. You married well.
Yeah.
So, but you have, you don't want to turn around and say, I have all these beers that I will stand behind that are high quality. Oh, the red wine that I have, it's out of a box.
Yeah.
What? I thought you were about quality.
Yeah.
So it's great. We do the same thing.
There's no bigger turnoff for a wine lover than when you go out to a brewery or somewhere like that and they say, yeah, we have a red and white. And they come in a box.
And they come in a box.
And the box is from somewhere.
Yeah, we don't know. It's unidentified. So
It's
we do the
unidentified.
same. We do the reverse.
Yeah.
But the same principle at Cinder. We stand by all of our red wines, and then when we have the guy we can tell, my team's great. They can read the room, and they see the one guy, and he's like, and we go, we also have beer, and then they go, oh, what beer? And then we show them, and it's all local, cool, crafted stuff. And we don't have 50 beers, but they're so jazzed that we have 3 really cool beers.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we're asking for. And I do like wine, and so we'll go to a winery, and I'll get wine. But every so often, if we go to a winery, and like maybe it's hot outside or I'm just not into whatever they have. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like a beer or, something like that. And a lot of times it's just like they have like 2 or 3 cans or whatever. And you're just like, okay, well. But on tap, I mean, and with you guys having the wine on tap already, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a game changer. Awesome.
It's been fun. It's been fun to do. And we joke, sometimes we make little goofy t-shirts for our crew. And one year we had, for our winemaking team, we made, I think it was around December, what is it, 5th or 6th, the celebration, the anniversary of the repeal of Prohibition.
Yeah. And
we had shirts, and it said, it takes a lot of great beer to make good wine. Because, man, our crew gets done making wine, they want a beer.
Yeah.
And so the shifty at Cinder is, 1 glass of whatever you want. And
they'll
hit the beer.
Oh yeah, no, I've worked with many brewers that have a glass of wine when they get home, or 2 or 3, and it's definitely the opposite is definitely true. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming by today. Is there anything? Oh, tell us where you're at.
I have one thing I wanted to do on departing.
Oh, sorry.
Now this is probably new to you, but if you give me, do you think you can squeeze 1 more minute in?
I can squeeze as many minutes as you got it.
Well, the shameless plug is just go to cinderwines.com and learn about us and come visit us in Garden City.
It's a really nice website.
But I had, I have a poem.
Oh,
how many times do you get that?
Not often.
This is by Khalil Gibran from the book The Prophet, and this is I think you're gonna like this, on eating and drinking, and also you can totally cut this out at the end. So that's the.
There's no way I'm cutting this out.
God.
Just so you know.
All right. So this is for all the brewers out there and everyone who likes food and drink. Then an old man, a keeper of an inn, said, "Speak to us of eating and drinking." And he said, "Would that you could live on the fragrance of the earth, and like an air plant be sustained by the light. But since you must kill to eat, and rob the newly born of its mother's milk to quench your thirst, let it then be an act of worship. And let your board stand an altar on which the pure and the innocent of forest and plain are sacrificed for that which is purer and still more innocent, and man. When you kill a beast, say to him in your heart, by the same power that slays you, I too am slain, and I too shall be consumed. For the law that delivered you into my hand shall deliver me into a mightier hand. Your blood and my blood is naught but the sap that feeds the tree of heaven. And when you crush an apple with your teeth, say to it in your heart, your seeds shall live in my body, and the buds of your tomorrow shall blossom in my heart, and your fragrance shall be my breath, and together we shall rejoice through all the seasons. And in the autumn, when you gather the grapes of your vineyards for the winepress, say in your heart, I too am a vineyard, and my fruit shall be gathered for the winepress. And like new wine, I shall be kept in eternal vessels. And in winter, when you draw the wine, let there be in your heart a song for each cup, and let there be in the song a remembrance for the autumn days, and for the vineyard, and for the winepress.
Amen. That's fantastic. And I can't think of a better note to end on than that. It's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Really nice. That's the first time we've ever had a poetry reading on the show, so I'm very excited about that. So Joe Schner from Cinder Wines came in today, and wow, what an awesome talk. So we'll be sure to get over there to Garden City to see your current spot. And then May of 2025, you open up on the Love Boat.
That's right, Steve.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for coming in today.
It is the last call for a family road trip, and Treasure Valley Chevron has everything you need to get out on the great highways and byways of these United States. Drinks, snacks, candy, ready to go hot food like corn dogs, nachos, and I am happy to tell you, Treasure Valley Chevron now has a bucket of delicious barbecue ribs ready to go with you out the door. Now, I'm kind of a barbecue guy. And when I say that, I mean I'm a real big barbecue guy. And so I'm telling you, these ribs are fall off the bone, finger licking good baby backs. And you know that's the truth. Get these ribs plus amazing deals on Idaho made beer and wine and any other thing you need for that last family getaway at Treasure Valley Chevron at Beacon Light and Highway 55, I-84 and Gowan Road. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm Steve Kuntz, and wasn't Joe great? God, I love that guy. He's such a nice guy. And his wines are delicious. That Laissez Faire wine, I guess it's a tap room, or I don't know what to call it, tasting room. It is awesome. Go check it out at the Love Boat in Garden City. It's that new big complex thing right there on the river. You can go and sit down, have a glass of wine, or I think you can even grab like a glass of wine and sit on the patio and stuff. It's really cool. Go check it out. Laissez Faire there. And then Cinder also in Garden City, just like right around the corner from Laissez Faire actually. So that was awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. Glad, would love to have him back too, Joe. Anytime you want to come back, you let me know. We'll get you on the show again. So what's going on? We got the Boise Beer Buddies community calendar. And we have a lot going on, including for the next couple weeks, it looks like, or next week or so, Huckleberry Collection with the Meriwether Cider Company. This is where they actually ask people to go out and grab them huckleberries. So I guess for every pound of huckleberries you bring in, you get something. You get like a $10 off something, or I forget what it is, but you get something. So go pick huckleberries for Meriwether so they can make their amazing huckleberry cider. That thing is always delicious. There's only ever 2 kegs of it, but you know, more huckleberries. Maybe they'll make more. Who knows? I don't know. And then let's see what else is going on. Friday, August 8th, we have, this is today, Friday Bites at the Rock Store in Nyssa. So make sure you check that out. Saturday, August 9th, tomorrow, yoga on the patio at Proletariat Wine Company. Oh, also they're doing a Teton Valley chip. These are my favorite chips. They're those ones that say Idaho right across the front of them. And they're just amazing. I think they also make the Boise State ones. Teton Valley chip and wine pairing at Proletariat Wine Company. That's going to be at noon. So do some yoga and then stick around for some chips. Why not? And then this is a big one. The brewery at Eagle, friend of the show, Jim. Hey, congratulations, man, on your first anniversary at the Eagle View Landing location for the brewery. It was a really cool idea. It still is a cool idea. An awesome place to go. I recommend checking this thing out. Noon to 4 o'clock. There at Eagle View Landing. It's right behind the Top Golf off of Overland and Eagle at the brewery. It's their anniversary party. Go check it out. Go see Jim and tell him we said hi. And then it looks like, let's see what else is going on. Monday, August 11th, Business and Brews with the Boise Metro Chamber at Belmont Brew House. You get a free beer. Check that out. And then on Tuesday, Z's Rooftop is doing a fundraiser. And Paint Night at Mad Sweet Brewing on Wednesday, August 13th from 6 to 8:30. So make sure you go check all that stuff out. Plus, we have some stuff coming up. The Mountain Brew Fest in McCall is on August 16th. So make sure you get your tickets for that. Also, a cornhole tournament at the Rock Store in Nyssa. You don't want to miss that. And then an open air concert at St. Chappelle Winery, August 16th. I actually do kind of want to go to that because that place is pretty cool. So there you have it. It's the Boise Beer Buddies community calendar brought to you by Boise Beer Buddies. We'll be right back to wrap up the show right after this. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company and WarrenReserve.com. It's still kind of hot. It's August. It's still a little warm out there, but the nights are getting cooler, right? As we move towards fall, old-fashioned season is coming back. Oh, and you need to be ready. And have I got the product for you? They finally did it. Adrian and Danny at Warren Reserve finally put my old-fashioned kit up on the website. It is there. You can go and buy my old-fashioned bundle. This is going to be the burnt sugar syrup. Amazing. So good. So much better than regular simple syrup. Just an amazing flavor, complex flavors, amazing with that old fashioned, with any whiskey really, but really paired nicely with a nice like 100 proof whiskey. Really, really good. Aromatic bitters are on there. The Warren Reserve aromatic bitters, different than the ones you're used to, a little bit more flavor, a little bit more sort of oomph in these bitters. And then my favorite, my absolute favorite bitter, the West 509 Almond Bitter. When I tell you that I love this bitter, I am not joking around here. I'm not essing around. These are the best. This is the best combination for an old fashioned. This is the kit that you want. WarrenReserve.com. Pick up my old fashioned kit. And I tell you what, I'm going to throw in a little deal here for you. Use promo code IdahoBooze25, support the show, and get 15% off my old-fashioned bundle. It's right there, right under my big fake picture. The old-fashioned bundle, burnt sugar syrup, aromatic bitters, West 509 almond bitters, all at WarrenReserve.com. Go and get it today. Get ready for old-fashioned season with me and my old-fashioned bundle and promo code IdahoBooze25. Get 15% off at WarrenReserve.com. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm Steve Kuntz, and thank you so much for going through another re-release with us this week. Just having trouble getting the time and the guests arrive, but I do have a bunch of guests coming up in the next 3 or 4 weeks. We have a bunch of really cool people coming on, so stay tuned. Share the show with your friends. Go and visit our sponsors. Please go to WarrenReserve.com. Use that promo code IdahoBooze25 and get that bundle. Get that old-fashioned bundle. That thing is so good. I'm telling you right now, if you haven't tried the West 509 bitters in an old-fashioned, this is the time to do it. The burnt sugar syrup is amazing, and I love their take on aromatic bitters. It's a little bit different from the ones that we're used to, and in all the best ways. It just has a wonderful pop of flavor that I think you're really going to enjoy. So please go to WarrenReserve.com, IdahoBooze25, get 15% off that bundle. You're going to save some real money with that. Boise Beer Buddies, thank you so much. Make sure you visit them as well, BoiseBeerBuddies.com. Get a card. Why not? Save a couple bucks every time you go out and use my promo code BOOZEPOD. Get 2 for 1 Boise Beer Buddies cards and make sure you pick one up for your best drinking buddy as well. I hope everybody had a great time at High Aldi. By all accounts, it was an awesome event. It seemed like everybody had a great time. So thank you to everyone who came out for High Aldi. Thank you to everyone for listening. Make sure you go and check out the show notes. Lots of fun stuff on there for you to check out. Help support the show. Share the show with a friend if you can. Rate us. Also, you can rate us on Spotify. You can rate us on YouTube. You can rate us on Apple Pods as well. So please listen on Apple Pods. Listen on Spotify. Listen on YouTube. Listen on Substack. Get on Substack and become a member on there. Lots of fun stuff coming in the days ahead. I have a lot of fun wine stuff, a lot of fun beer stuff coming up on my Substack. So make sure you subscribe to that. Post haste. Make sure you get on that and get subscribed because it is some really cool stuff coming up on the Substack. And that's going to do it for me from here in the Palatial Studios. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much to all my sponsors, and have a great weekend, everybody. Good day and good drinking.